Welcome to A Plan for That podcast, where each week co-hosts Erin and Ryan will meet with progressive organizers, activists, and leaders. Together, we will educate, invigorate, and elevate the progressive movement. When we unite our voices, an army of progressives is possible. Hey everybody, it's Erin and Ryan. We are finally back. It's all on me, you guys. I was sick. I was so sick. Ryan, do you know how sick I was?
How sick were you?
I knew you would do that. I was so sick that they still don't know what's going on with me, but they are suspecting the COVID UK variant.
Ooh.
Yeah, so I got to give 9 vials of blood today and, try to walk after that. So yeah, just to let you guys know, I so appreciate everyone hanging with us and all of the messages I got in my DMs asking if I was okay and what the hell was going on. And so it really feels good to know that you guys care, and we definitely care about you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's good to be back. It's nice to be back in the chair here. I know, we're going to try and keep Erin's talking to a minimum tonight, so it'll be a little bit shorter as we continue to recover from this. But we thought it'd be important to come on and catch up a little bit and really touch base because it's been a while. It's been close to a month here, Erin.
Seriously? I know. And it was so frustrating. Ryan had me all up in his DMs. I was like, I can't talk, but this is what I want you to say. So I was just so frustrated. But tonight, you guys, you're not even going to recognize me because I am so happy, Ryan. We need to celebrate. Yeah. We need to celebrate. We got a lot done. And a progressive win, and I don't hear this on the news enough, so I'm going to say it loud. A progressive win is a win for everyone. It's a win for the country.
Absolutely. And it's important to note, too, that the win for the country is also a progressive win. Right. Yep. We want everybody to be happy here. We want everybody to succeed. Now, we don't get everything that we want. Obviously, the minimum wage hike didn't make it into the reconciliation bill.
Yep.
And that's through really nobody's fault. I mean, it is what it is. We have rules. We have to live by those rules. We'd like for them to be different. We're trying to change them. That's why we want to get rid of the filibuster.
Oh.
Hashtag Killing the Philly.
Yes.
There's a lot of different ways that we can get this done. The good news is that the momentum seems to be on our side.
Yes.
And in politics, momentum is everything. So, I mean, we're moving in the right direction. Things, as usual, moving a little slower than a lot of us want. But any movement is good movement when it comes to politics. As long as we can see that things are happening, generally, we can count on things to happen eventually. I don't remember who said it, but politics is the slow boring of hard boards. That it's a long process, a difficult process, and if you go too fast, the whole thing can get jammed up, and it can ruin everything. So you have to be patient in this. As much as we really would love to have gotten the minimum wage on that, as much as we would love to get rid of the filibuster right away and just abolish the whole thing, there's going to be grades to this. There's going to be timing on this, and it might not be this session. We might have to wait till after the midterms to get some of the stuff done that we want to get done. But the good news is it seems like the party is moving in a way that we can be proud of, that we can be happy with. And honestly, I mean, what more do you want right now?
Okay, Ryan, I love you, but I cannot wait until after the midterms, and here's why. If we do not do something, I don't care what Joe Manchin wants to call it. We could call it hide the filibuster or dress it up or tell Bird that you like him anyway, but make it possible to kill it. Because if we don't pass those voting rights acts during this term, midterms is not going to be okay, guys.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. Look, I agree with you on the Joe Manchin thing, but here's what we got to remember, right? We don't have to completely get rid of the filibuster to take the teeth out of it.
Exactly.
If you can, I really liked his idea of not just a talking filibuster, but also a filibuster where 41 members of the minority have to be present to sustain it.
Right.
Where if the minority wants to have obstructionist rules, you have to be there. Now, I think that ultimately that's going to prove to be a short-term solution, and I think eventually we're going to be in a spot where we'll pass the VRA, we'll pass DC statehood. We'll give statehood to any to the territories that want it. These are things that we're going to have happen over the next 5-10 years. This is going to snowball once we get this done.
Mm-hmm.
But I was okay with that compromise. A talking filibuster with the 41 votes, understanding that getting rid of the filibuster probably isn't possible right now, and getting to a solution where it might be possible in the future. I think that's the kind of progress that we're talking about, that we say, it's not everything that we want, but we got the basics, right? We got the basic level of what we wanted. We wanted the premium package, couldn't afford it yet. We got to save our time, save our political capital a little bit, put it in the bank. And then next time this comes up, we'll have enough to get rid of it, but it's going to take some time. And right now, time is not on our side. We have 2 years to get the VRA passed. We've got to get HR1 passed. We've got to counteract a lot of these voting rights issues that are happening in states.
Oh.
And we're finally starting to get some movement on the dark money front with Sheldon Whitehouse and how all this stuff is going on behind the scenes. We're getting investigations into how Supreme Court justices were handled. This is what we wanted. This is what we voted for.
Yes. Yes, exactly. And I just have to say, I'm sure I'm not the only one that notices it, but there is a shadow president, Ryan, and I know you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah, it's been really interesting to see, how, I'll just say it out loud. It's been really interesting to see how Elizabeth Warren has influenced this administration.
Hell yes.
And I stopped short of calling her a shadow president only because I feel like it's disrespectful to the work that she's doing, in my opinion. You can call her what you want.
Truth.
But, she has been pulling the strings of these things for a long time. A lot of the issues that she ran on that a lot of people thought were really niche issues 2 years ago are suddenly not niche issues anymore. They're front and center. They're the things that we're discussing. They're the things that we know that we have to get done in order to move forward. And she was banging the drum on that 2 years ago.
Right.
And she's not the first, right? Let's be really clear about that. She's not the first to call for the end of the filibuster. Mm-hmm. But in the last 3-4 years, certainly in the last cycle, she was the one that was banging the drum on that. So she deserves a lot of credit for how it is today. But obviously, this is a decades, almost multiple centuries long movement to get rid of the filibuster. We've been working on Senate reform since before the Civil War. Like there's a whole lot to this, and she is the latest in people that are pushing this ball down the field. And I have to be honest, she's doing a great job.
And you know what? I am really glad that you brought up the Civil War, because just in case everyone doesn't know, Joe Manchin's good buddy, Byrd, is not the great guy that you think he is. Can we talk a little bit about how he wanted to stop the Voting Rights Act?
Well, sure. And I mean, look, you've got to consider a couple things about Robert Byrd, right? He renounced it later, and he said he regretted it, but he did recruit and lead the KKK.
Yeah.
At least a chapter of it. He brought friends in. He contributed to that, and like I said, he did atone for it. He did apologize for it. He said it was the worst regret of his life. But he did filibuster the Civil Rights Act of 1964.
Yes, he did.
And he was integral in stopping that bill. Now, there were a lot of other dynamics at play in 1964, but if you're Joe Manchin and the filibuster's what you're defending in the name of Robert Byrd, I might want to reconsider that.
Yep. And I tweeted it at him, and Ryan, I was so proud of myself. It's been so long, and I've been so, calm, I guess, over the last week or so, that I did not swear at him. No, I did not.
Absolutely.
I tweeted very nicely. I said, I just want to warn you that Robert Byrd is not the hero that you want him to be, okay, Joe Manchin? So please don't defend the filibuster for your good friend, Robert Byrd. So yeah, just wanted people to know that in case they weren't crazy fanatics like we are. Robert Byrd is not a good person to hold yourself up to. And beyond that, I am really glad that we are talking about Elizabeth Warren, because there's something that got into this bill, and AOC was talking about it. And of course, the AOC factions that can't stand her started screaming. And yeah, let's just set the story straight. So there is a part of the bill, Ryan, where college debt has been forgiven tax-free if there are college debts forgiven. And that is something that was very quietly put into place. It wasn't like part of the main talking points that are used for the American Rescue Plan, but it is there.
Right.
And Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez was talking about how it's going to be really necessary now for us to get loud as constituents all around the country about canceling student debt. And Ryan, there were people that got really mad at her and said, why can't you just leave Joe Biden alone and let him do his job? And I'll let you go off, because I definitely had my say on Twitter about what it means to stay engaged, etc.
Yeah, look, I think that it's important to note that the job of Congress is, in a lot of respects, to push the White House the same way it is for the White House to push issues on the Congress. We have the president's agenda, and he's the leader of the party, but it's really important. It's really, really important that we remember that everybody has a district or a state that they represent. Mm-hmm. And everybody has people within those districts and states that have interests in these issues, and that's why they're pressing them. Mm-hmm. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is, in many respects, the best messenger we have in the House right now.
Yeah. Or Pramila. Oh, I don't know. She's right there with Pramila.
There's a lot of in a lot of ways, though. The way that she simplistically and understandably communicates the complexities of these issues to a breadth of people that would otherwise not understand or not be interested in them is amazing. Yeah. And the only comparison I have to that in the Senate is the way that Elizabeth Warren breaks these things down into very understandable tidbits. It's not the sloganeering of the Bernie campaign, which is fine and has its place. It's really good on a campaign. But when you're trying to stump for something, when you're trying to govern, it's important to be able to explain in an understandable way the things that you're trying to pass. And AOC does it as good, if not better, than almost everybody. And I think that this is something that the mainstream Democrats like Nancy Pelosi, like Hakeem Jeffries, like a lot of these leadership Dems are going to have to come to understand is if you want that kind of messaging, if you want that kind of accessibility to your message, if you want people to understand what you're doing in a way that doesn't rile up Republicans 100% of the time, don't go to the media because they're going to try and sensationalize it. You've got to find ways to get directly at people.
That's right.
And social media is the way to do that. And AOC does that better than anybody right now.
You're exactly right. You're exactly right.
That's my response to the thing with pushing Joe Biden. This is their job, right? Their job is to push the president. Their job is to push their agenda. Everybody has an agenda. It's Washington. We know this. We have to stop falling into this trap of thinking that every disagreement is a personal attack.
The way I put it on Twitter was that democracy literally requires the citizens of its country to remain engaged and to remain interested and to remain informed. And when any of those things falls down and we start to, dare I say, worship our leaders, that's autocracy. I mean, that literally is the definition of an autocracy.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. There's a lot of things within the government that would point toward autocracy.
Right.
And look, the biggest thing that I want to get across, right? If you're a progressive, stop standing politicians. It's not working for us.
Right.
Right? We've got to have a broader approach to these things. We've got to have a governing philosophy that we can come back and touch on. And if you're a more moderate Dem, that's fine too. But you've got to stop attacking progressives who are trying to push their issues. Yeah. Right? There is a clear line in the party of people who want to be Democrats, and that's fine. And they want to be like, I'm going to donate to Democrats. I'm going to vote for Democrats. I'm going to stump for Democrats. That's good. We need those people. But there's also the dreamer wing of the party. Right? And I don't say dreamer like the legal sense of the children of immigrants. I mean
Right.
dreamer like the policy dreamers, the people who think this is possible.
Yes.
And it might not be politically possible right now, but it's something that we might be able to do in the future. Right? We need both of those wings.
Yes, and I'm glad you said that, because I'm gonna tag off of that and say it is too possible, because guess what, Ryan? We've said it before, and I'm gonna keep saying it until people really get it into their skull. All around the country, I have read hundreds of data polls and articles about this. I'm not even kidding. Ask Maya. It took forever. And there are eight things that absolutely everyone around the country wants. And it's not even close, Ryan. It's not like, oh, only 37%. No, 89%. Okay, 89% of the country wants, number one, legalize marijuana.
Yep.
Number two, raise the wage. I'm sorry, you 8 Democrats that voted against it. You're going to be in for a shellacking if you don't wake up. Number 3, worker representation on corporate boards. Number 4, credit card companies charge way too much interest. Everyone agrees. That's got to stop. They're like usury. Yep, usury rates, exactly. And number 5, no stocks for senators. I cannot stress this enough. It can't just be senators. I'm going to bring in the House, because look at what happened with Dan Crenshaw.
Right, absolutely. And I'll touch on that point. There's one other point that you said that I want to get back to real quick. But the stocks one is interesting. I just finished Julian Zellerzer's book, Burning Down the House, the rise of the new Republican Party, and how Newt Gingrich basically took down Jim Wright in 1989.
Wow.
Jim Wright was the Speaker of the House after Tip O'Neill, really at the end of an era of Democratic dominance. It was improper stocks, improper use of money, ethics rules, and corruption that brought to a halt almost 4 decades of Democratic dominance.
Wow.
From 1955 until 1994. Republicans didn't hold a majority in the U.S. House of Representatives. And it all went away because of the lack of ethics rules and the lack of following ethics rules. We need these things in place.
Yes.
Right? Yeah, I honestly, in my heart of hearts, do I believe that there are a number of Democratic senators that are trading improperly? No. Do I think the majority of Republicans are trading improperly? No, I don't. But there are a number of them on both sides of the aisle that are doing this.
Yes.
Dianne Feinstein does it.
Yep.
We just saw 2 Republican senators get beat in runoff elections in Georgia that were guilty of this.
Dan Crenshaw.
Dan Crenshaw, he's in a gerrymandered district. It's probably going to be a while for him. But these are the things that we deal with, right? Now, the other thing I want to touch on that you mentioned were the 8 senators who voted down the minimum wage. The 8 senators who voted down the minimum wage, it's horrible optics, and politics are optics. So we can say that for what it's worth. The Kirsten Sinema little dance thing that she did when she put the thumbs down drove me insane. But it's important to remember that they may not be against the minimum wage hike. They were just against the minimum wage hike as an amendment to that bill.
Make them explain it then. That's what I say.
That's the next point.
Yep.
Right? It shouldn't be the job of people on Twitter to push these senators to give an answer to that.
Right.
Where is the news media in holding accountable our members of Congress who vote down these things on a party line?
I'll tell you where they are. Ryan, they're a corporate agenda media. They're serving the agenda of whoever runs that station and who owns those corporations. I'm going to tell you who they are. It's rich white men.
Well, and that goes back to the last part of our conversation, right? Where if you want to get this through to the American people to have them understand these things, you have to have a competent social media strategy.
Exactly.
And it feels like so few Democrats do that.
Yes.
That there are a number of them, and they're mostly the younger Democrats that do it, but it's not all younger Democrats. I mean, Elizabeth Warren's great about this. Obviously, we said AOC is great at this. Ilhan Omar is great at this.
Yep.
Pramila Jayapal is good at this. Ro Khanna, for all his faults, is good at this.
Cory Bush. Cory Bush is hitting hard.
Cory Booker is great at this.
Yeah.
So the social media strategy is something that's kind of coming into its own, but it's the younger members of the group that are going to get it. I really think that this is the future of the party. We've got to learn to cut the corporate media out of the equation. Let them report on exactly what we said in our social media. Don't keep going to the press. Don't leak things to the press. Legacy media isn't your friend.
Nope.
They're there to do a job. They're there to make money. And until we pass reforms to subsidize local press again, where local press can take the capitalism out of media.
Yes.
This is what we have to do.
Now, I want to mention something because unlike probably the bulk of people on social media, I sat through what could have been considered a very boring hearing on the media and how at risk our media is. But because it's a big bugaboo for me, and yes, I will never forgive you, MSNBC, for what you did to Elizabeth Warren during the presidential campaign. That is my aside. However, back to the hearing. During the hearing, Ryan, they talked about the importance of local media, and I can acknowledge that, but we're going to need to get even further into the weeds because do you remember the name Sinclair?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah, we're going to need to talk about who in the heck they are and why they control 70% of the entire syndicates all across the nation.
Got to break them up.
Yep. Especially since they're pushing Kremlinist lines and talking points. It's
Absolutely.
It's scary.
Absolutely. Sinclair is one of those stories that you hear it and you immediately think, we really need a CFPB for the media. We really need, information protections for voters and consumers in the media.
Yep. And Ryan, they did another hearing today about misinformation and disinformation. Big shock. Russia's the big problem. China is not the big problem. So that was kind of a summation of that hearing. However, what I'm not hearing, Ryan, and this is what you're getting at and what we really need, is like a government level, I don't know what you want to call it, deprogramming? Because more than half the nation was pushed on Kremlin talking points, and they don't even know it. They have no idea.
Yeah, I think that what's really going to be the most important is just time away.
Right.
Here's a story real quick, and then we can start to move toward wrapping this up because I know we wanted to keep it short today. But,
well, don't forget the popular progressive stuff. I got 2 more.
Sure. My dad, as everybody who listens knows, is a very conservative person. Mm-hmm. There was some concern on my part for a while, that he may have been involved in some of the QAnon, that kind of garbage.
Oh boy, yeah.
My dad completely unplugged from conservative media after he read what I wrote about him and my issues with conservative media and how it was affecting our relationship. He unplugged.
Wow.
And I have to tell you, he's completely different.
I bet. That's incredible.
We can talk again. We can talk politics again. There are a number of benefits to the just unplugging. I was able to talk to my dad about modern monetary theory and the passage of a minimum wage increase and why it would benefit the economy. And he didn't even fight me on it.
Wow.
The biggest thing that we can do is just push people away from conservative media.
Oh,
the longer that they're away from it, the better they will get.
It's not just that, though, Ryan. I'm sorry to tell you. We have our own on MSNBC CNN side. We've got people like my sweet family who are telling me that only certain things can occur, and Andrew Cuomo is being set up, and whatever the TV says. And I say to them, let me guess, you just got done watching MSNBC, didn't you?
Yeah. The entire corporate media setup is a huge huge problem.
Yes. And it's wrong to be that way because we need facts. We need to be informed as a public, like you said. Now, let me get back to these progressive things because they are coming, you guys. We are pushing them and they're already in the Congress. The last ones are cheaper drugs. Everybody believes that drugs are way too expensive and Big Pharma is a crook. Okay? Paid 12-week leave for family and maternity issues, hugely popular all around the nation. We're not talking about blue states and safe New York and California. We're talking about Idaho. We're talking about West Virginia. We're talking about South Carolina. So, and then the one last one, and this is the bugaboo. This is the one that is only popular in, I think it was 40 states out of our total nation. And that is some kind of climate action now. And this gets back to our episode with Pam, when we talked about Pam Keith and the way that we message things. Instead of saying, are you for the Green New Deal? This was a poll that said, what do you think about the current situation with the climate? And because they phrased it that way, everybody said it's a problem. Everybody. Red states, blue states, all over the place. So I'm telling you, Ryan, the progressive agenda is coming, and Elizabeth Warren was right. A progressive agenda is popular.
Right, and we're seeing that right now, right? The American Rescue Act, the American Rescue Plan is the largest bill we have passed for just helping the public in a long time. A long time.
Amen.
We didn't get bogged down in the conversations of austerity or too much spending or do we need to raise taxes. We didn't buy into the Republican fear talking points. There was no running the other direction when Republicans made threats on this bill. Mm-hmm. There was none of that. For the first time, really in my lifetime, you really got the feeling that Democrats were not running scared.
Right. And I loved it. It was such a great feeling. We have to keep it going.
Absolutely. I'm really excited. I think it's going to be great to see over the next 2, even 4 years, even 8 years, right? When we win the presidency again in 2024.
Of course.
Regardless of who the nominee is, if it's not Joe Biden. But there's going to be so much potential for us to build on this majority, to really act boldly and pass progressive agenda stuff that, even though people are going to want to claim it as it's not progressive, it's the right thing to do, and they're going to try and take the progressive label off of it. No one gets into this with the idea of wanting to build, power for themselves. At least, they shouldn't be. Mm-hmm. And that's what we want, right? We want what's right and what's good for the American people. And if it means that it's not an expressed progressive doing it, I mean, I'm not going to be thrilled with it, but if it gets done, it gets done, and I'll be happy with it. I just want to see these things happen. I'm policy-focused, not person-focused.
See, and I couldn't agree with you more. When I created the hashtag Army of Progressives, I wasn't talking about you have to be labeled as a progressive, come from the Progressive Party. I was talking about, are you talking about progressive ideas? Are you ready to be, quote-unquote, unpopular politically and state something that you have a stance on without saying things like, let's have that conversation? That's an important conversation. Don't get me started on that, Ryan. I am talking about leaders who lead. That's what I'm talking about.
Absolutely. I'm with you on that.
Heck yeah. We are so excited. I'm thrilled to be back. Ryan, tell me what you're doing lately to help with the upcoming races in Louisiana and St. Louis.
Well, right now I'm really just doing my research on it. I'm trying to find who I would really like to support. St. Louis especially, I'm back in the Elizabeth Warren candidate and Tishwara Jones.
Heck yeah.
I think that she's great. I mean, she says everything the way that I would phrase it. She really understands the issues that are facing her city. And look, there's a lot of issues facing St. Louis. It's been struggling since 2015 with the post-Ferguson realities.
Yes.
And it would be huge for someone like her with a progressive vision to do that. The other place that I'm really, I don't want to say getting involved yet, but a place that I've really had my finger on keep paying attention to is New York City. and
Oh
the
boy.
mayor's race in New York City.
Oh boy, yeah.
I will say, obviously, we don't endorse candidates here, but I personally have been donating money and supporting Diane Morales.
Same here.
I think that she's just terrific.
Yes.
And again, someone who really understands the needs of the city, who understands the moment that they're in, who understands the importance of the office of the mayor of New York City and the tone that can set for municipal governments all over the country. And I just think it's really important that you get somebody in there who's really going to be America's mayor, right? It's everybody looks to the mayor of New York City when you're talking about municipal policy, when you're talking about local government. What are the possibilities of what we can do? I live obviously in the Twin Cities right now, and we're talking about what does it look like to defund the police? What does it look like to have police reform? And you want somebody in a large city like New York City that can demonstrate that can be a leader on that, because you'd love to hear Joe Biden come out and support these things, but Joe Biden has a much different job than a mayor.
That's right.
And it's important to have this example. So I'm supporting Diane Morales. I'm supporting Tashara Jones. I really think that there's a lot of good candidates in Louisiana. I know that that we've been in the past on this podcast, we've been big on Gary Chambers. I love Gary Chambers. I think Gary Chambers is sweet. He'd be a great representative in Louisiana. I know that there's a number of races that are coming up in the next year and then next year itself that are going to be really important. We're going to be here for all of it. I mean, it's really, if we're going to send an army of progressives to Washington, it starts this year.
That's right. Hashtag every race, every district. And you can see us on Twitter at Plan for That Pod. And if you want to follow me personally, it's Wellness for You 13. Wellness, the number 4U 13.
And I'm at Sweet Cane Music. As Sweet CAIN Music. Just like Sweet Chin Music, but it's Cane.
This is so great, Ryan. I'm so glad to be back, and I am so glad to hear your sweet voice again. And I'm really glad that the Democrats are winning. Go team!
Go team. Well, we'll talk to you next week, Erin.
All right, you take care.